Hello again. This is Patty with Patty Talks Too Much, and today I'm talking about a bacteria vital to our optimal health, and yet there's a 96% chance you don't have it. Hello, and welcome back to the Patty Talks Too Much podcast. I have been looking forward to speaking about this for quite a while. As many of you know, I have been reversing my rheumatoid arthritis over the last year through natural means, cleanses, supplements. And one of the key components of my reversal process has been rebalancing my gut. It turns out, and this has been discovered in recent years, our gut is really at the heart of our overall health and also the source of many illnesses and diseases. And so over the last year, I've gone down many rabbit holes, done a lot of research, read a lot of books, and immersed myself in all of the things that I felt I needed to know. I was tooling myself with all of the tools and the knowledge that I needed to be able to reverse my rheumatoid arthritis naturally, because as you all know, this is not readily available information. You really have to dig around, and often, as I've mentioned in other podcasts, sometimes it's met with quite a bit of resistance from our medical doctors, who, as it turns out, don't know a heck of a lot about nutrition, nutritional approaches to health, and in the natural remedies for many of the illnesses that we face. So I did encounter that and knew that my doctor was not going to be a resource for information. I was on my own. And if you have endeavored to address some kind of illness or imbalance naturally, I'm sure you've had a similar discovery. We are on our own. We're not going to get a whole lot of support from the, traditional medical system. Now, there are some functional doctors out there. There are some naturopaths out there that are absolutely wonderful resources, and it's worth it to find a naturopath who will work with you and support your endeavor to address whatever is ailing you naturally. I wasn't so lucky, so I was pretty much on my own, but I read so many wonderful books, and there's one that I just can't talk enough about, and that is Super Gut by Dr. William Davis. Now, he is the one who wrote Wheat Belly, which is also a great, great book, and he endeavored to write this book because he found that even though many people had reversed a lot of imbalances, disease, illnesses by elimination of wheat, especially in the West, where our wheat has been altered and distorted and is nothing like the kind of wheat perhaps that our ancestors ate. But that's a whole other story. He discovered that many of the people he was working with were still having symptoms. They were still having difficulty. And as it turns out, there was much more to do in terms of addressing and reversing people's conditions. And so that is when he did his own deep dive into gut health and gut bacteria, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria. And so much he discovered along the way. So one is that the majority of us suffer with what is called SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIFO, which is small intestine fungal overgrowth, and many people have both. So, how do we know that we have an imbalance in our gut? Well, I can tell you this, rest assured that you have some imbalance. If you live in the West and you eat the standard American diet, you have a gut that's out of balance. If you have taken antibiotics, chances are you have a gut that is out of balance. If you are somebody who takes a lot of like ibuprofen and those kinds of things, chances are you have a gut that is out of balance. Western medications cause our gut to be out of balance. There are so many things, our food and the kinds of toxins that are in our food cause our gut to be out of balance. Heavy metals cause our gut to be out of balance. Parasites cause our gut to be out of balance. So in many cases, or in most cases, there are multiple things, multiple factors that are causing our gut to be out of balance. And when your gut is out of balance, you have an overgrowth of the nasty negative bacteria and the squiggly things that don't belong there in the first place, then you start having symptoms like rheumatoid arthritis is definitely connected to an imbalance of the gut and often to leaky gut, which is when your gut lining has become so thin, you don't have the mucous membrane. And so a lot of the toxins are leaking out into your bloodstream, causing systemic inflammation. So there are many things that indicate that you have a gut imbalance. If you have food insensitivities, we're not meant to have food insensitivities. We're meant to be able to, we're omnivores. So we're meant to eat, and our body is designed to process what we eat, plant, animal, etc. And there are so many people who now have gut sensitivities to things like dairy, to wheat. You get the bloating, you get the pain. That is a gut imbalance. If your gut is in balance, you will not have food sensitivities. So something has knocked the balance of your gut off so that your body is responding in ways that naturally we don't respond to. So food sensitivities, food allergies, bloating, excessive gas, those are all indications that you have a gut imbalance. Even things like anxiety and depression. If you're suffering with anxiety and depression, chances are you have a gut imbalance. Yes, believe it or not, those little nasty bacteria and parasites are messing with your head and your emotions. That's how powerful these little critters can be. So there are many conditions that are linked to gut imbalance and indicate that we have a gut imbalance. If you have skin irritations, things like eczema and psoriasis, gut imbalances. So there are so many indications. And yet what we do is we go out and we get those, if you have excessive heartburn, if you have bloating, there's a pill for that. Eczema, psoriasis, there's a pill for that. Anxiety, depression, there's a pill for that. And all that does is mask the symptoms of something that is much more central. So in my case, I exhibited many of these symptoms. So I had skin rashes, I had the bloating, I had the food sensitivities. And then there were a couple of things that didn't register right away as related to a gut imbalance that I discovered later. One was that I had difficulty getting through the night in terms of being able to sleep a solid 8 hours without interruption. I often had difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. I would go to sleep for a few hours and then wake up. So I didn't have a very good sleep patterns. And I did not relate this to an imbalance in my gut. And in fact, it is. Another thing that I had that I did not realize was connected, I actually didn't know what it was. And that was an indication of fat malabsorption. My body was not processing fats correctly. And the way that you can tell that this is going on with your body is if you see a fat ring around the toilet, or little fat deposits in the toilet when you go to the bathroom, that's an indication that your body is not processing fats. So that is all connected to SIBO and SIFO. And so I had all of these symptoms, and it was a clear indication that I had a gut imbalance. Of course, I was about to be diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And so it all just kind of came together. All right. So I decide I'm going to do this naturally. What do I do? It's connected to a gut imbalance. What do I do? So my approach was first to do a series of cleanses. And the rationale on this, I like to use the analogy of, say, painting a room or painting a house. So you have, some a surface that is in desperate need of a paint job. The wall is a little dented and there are things going on, that are, it's uneven, it's old, the paint is peeling, all of that. And it's just a mess. It needs a fresh coat of paint. The last thing you want to do is just slap some paint on the wall to mask what is going on. So the wall will look somewhat better, but you still have the cracks, you still have the peeling, and the color that you apply to it is not going to be the true color because of all of the dinginess and stains that are underneath. So I know that's kind of a funny analogy, but my father was a painter. I've painted just about every place that I've ever lived in. And so a painting analogy kind of comes up because I know I've had this experience of being so tempted to do the shortcut. I'm just gonna put the paint on the wall and call it a day. And that is always a mistake. So it's always best to go in there, to repair the wall, to sand it down, to make it smooth again, to chip away the paint that's been peeling, and to give it a nice coat of primer. So when you put that nice new color you want on your wall, it'll be smooth and it will be the true color, the color that it's meant to be, not tarnished, not diminished because of the stuff that the color that the paint is trying to cover up. So excuse that kind of awkward analogy, but I do think about that when I think about how I would approach, how I have approached, and how I would recommend anyone approach rebalancing your gut, is that it is important to begin with clearing things out, cleaning things out. So if you have a gut imbalance, chances are you're going to need a colon cleanse. And there are lots of them out there. I would definitely start with a colon cleanse. I would definitely do a parasite cleanse. I would start also with a daily routine. This is, the parasite and the heavy metal stuff is something that you just kind of have to do ongoing because there's just so much in our environment that it seems like it's not a one and done. So with parasites, and I did a podcast on parasites, and so you can check that out in terms of kind of what I've done and what I think works. In terms of heavy metal, I use zeolite, and I do it as part of my daily routine. I got a really good quality liquid zeolite, and I put that in my vitamin mix drink every morning. So it's just part of my routine to keep the heavy metals at bay because we do live in a toxic soup, unfortunately. And so we're kind of always exposed, it seems, no matter what we do. And with the parasites, like I mentioned, it's not a one and done because if you have parasites there, you have to keep going in, because there's the adults and then there's the babies. And so, but anyway, check out my parasite podcast if you want more information on that. So I started with starting these cleanses, addressing the parasites, addressing the heavy metals, doing a colon sweep, because really you're sweeping everything out, you're cleansing everything out. And then part of any good colon cleanse is now you're rebuilding it with the bacteria that it needs. So you've kind of swept everything out and you are going through a rebuilding process. So that is how I began to rebuild my gut. Now, in the process, though, like I said, I'm reading all of these books, and I did read Super Gut by Dr. William Davis. And I will say this, that one of the jaw droppers for me was that there are just some bacteria that don't exist or exist in very, very low numbers in our bodies. Obviously, our microbiome is going to change as we evolve and as humans migrate to different places and eat different diets. Our microbiome changes. But one of the things that they've found is that when they've tested indigenous people on totally different continents, like the Hadza of Africa and indigenous people of Peru, what they have found is that they do have bacteria in common. So there are these core bacteria that are needed for our optimal health, and many of those core bacteria are missing in our Western diet. And so the one that I really wanted to talk about today is a bacteria called L-reuteri. Here's the thing about the yogurts and even the probiotics that we take. If you look, I buy a really good probiotic. I have a really good probiotic that I pay good money for. And it's great because it's got those bacteria in the billions. That's awesome. I need to keep it in the refrigerator. That's a good sign. The thing is when you look on the label, it does not have L-reuteri. If you eat yogurt, that's not going to be one of the bacteria in the yogurt, no matter how good that yogurt was or how much you paid for it. L-reuteri is kind of a hard to get bacteria. You won't see it in a lot of probiotics. I will say too, just as a note on the yogurt, even if you're getting the yogurt that says prebiotic yogurt, it's really been cultured for about 6 to 8 hours. And a yogurt, in order to get full of all of those wonderful bacteria at the numbers that you need for your gut, a yogurt really does need to culture for about 36 hours. And the store-bought yogurts don't come close. So store-bought yogurts, even if they say probiotic yogurt, they're really not doing that much good for your gut. You need a wide, wide range of bacteria and at very high counts. And the only way to do that really is to make your own. So and that's what I do. So, and I do have, if you want to check out my my how-to videos, if you visit Patty Talks Too Much on my Rumble channel, I do have a how-to video that shows you how I make a super, super potent yogurt with all of these wonderful bacteria. But just back to L-reuteri. Why is L-reuteri such an important bacteria? Well, it does amazing things for our body. And unfortunately, 96% of us don't have it in our gut. So L-reuteri lives in the upper GI, and it is like a super, when it comes to fending off bad bacteria, it's like a super 350-pound linebacker up there in our GI, fighting off bad bacteria. That's just one thing that it does. How else does L-reuteri affect us? L-reuteri is known for keeping our skin smooth and reducing wrinkles. It is known for enhancing our sleep. I definitely sleep more soundly now because I'm doing, I'm making my own yogurt and I'm culturing L-reuteri. It is good for our empathy. Something that L-reuteri helps release in our brain, and that's called the oxytocin. And so it's literally helping us be empathetic to other humans. And so just referring to this book, which I highly recommend, Supergut, I want to just read to you what the author says about making yogurt with L-reuteri, the L-reuteri culture. He says, Lactobacillus reuteri yogurt is our star yogurt that can yield spectacular health effects such as smoother skin, increased skin moisture, increased dermal collagen, accelerated healing, and restoration of youthful muscle that in total amount to an age reversing effect. Recall that the oxytocin boost you receive with this yogurt also increases feelings of empathy, and that the colonizing effect in the upper GI tract also provides protection against SIBO and SIFO reoccurrence. So this is a powerhouse culture. This is a powerhouse bacteria that so few of us have. So we are not getting the benefit of that. And, I think about the empathy factor. I think about what if balancing our gut means that we can be more empathetic to each other, less angry online, how polarized our world is and our culture is right now. Could it be that if we rebalanced our gut, we would be a little bit more empathetic to each other? It's a stretch, actually, to think about. But I've come to believe that our gut is far more important than we have been led to believe. When you can reduce anxiety attacks and depression by balancing your gut, that signals to me that there's a heck of a lot more going on here we've been taught. So I highly recommend that you read this book and you learn more about L-reuteri. You learn more about making your own yogurt and rebalancing your gut. If you have any of these symptoms that are associated with SIBO and SIFO, it's really in your best interest to begin rebalancing your gut. So if it's true that L-reuteri yogurt can literally unlock a reversal also in the aging process in terms of our skin, in terms of our outlook, in terms of our libido, in terms of all the things that seem to fall away as we age. If L-reuteri could revitalize those things, just as it has done in research with lab rats, believe it or not, then is it possible for us to be able to live longer if we simply rebalance our gut and make sure that we have the right bacteria in our gut, that we eliminate the destructive bacteria, the heavy metals, and the parasites? Those seem to me to be keys to living a long and healthy life. So, with all of this anti aging stuff out there, all the things we can do topically, all the things we can do surgically, can it literally be much simpler than that? What if we just rebalanced our gut and we ate a half a cup of super potent yogurt every day? What if that was the key? I'm telling you, it would be a heck of a lot cheaper. and more authentic. So I will say that I have begun that process. I have noticed a difference in my body and in my skin and my well-being. And so I'm going to keep making my super potent yogurt that contains L-reuteri, a journey that began with me wanting to simply reverse rheumatoid arthritis has now become something that is blossoming into a way of life that is going to allow me to live a longer and healthier and more vibrant life. So check out the book Supergut by Dr. William Davis. Get yourself a yogurt maker. Get some L-reuteri. You can get it on Amazon. Check out my video on Rumble that shows you how to make this super potent yogurt. Check out my channel on Rumble. Patty Talks Too Much, and I've got that video there for you. So I wish you all much health and happiness and urge you to consider that so much of that health and happiness may literally be in our gut. Take care of your gut and live a long and healthy and happy life. Till next time.